welcome to the History Makers Leadership Podcast. My name is Daniel, and I'm incredibly excited today to be joined by Chad Williams. Chad is a longtime friend. Chad, man, introduce yourself to us a little bit and let us know a little of your background. And
My name is Chad Williams. I'm a lead pastor at Highview Church here in the Atlanta area. Planted Highview 11 years ago, and spent a lot of time coaching church planters, training church planters. Before I went into ministry, I worked for about a decade for Chick-fil-A. And in doing that, spent time starting Chick-fil-A's. That was one of I planted Chick-fil-A's.
that's right. There you go.
As a grand opening coordinator. And so have spent most of my adult life starting things.
Dude, I love that. And what I'd really love to chat with you a little bit about today is the important kind of concept and conversation around when we start a thing, where should leadership fit into that? Where should leadership development fit into that? Because I would imagine, you can speak from experience on this, but I would imagine that is never the urgent thing when things are starting, right? I've had a little time in restaurants and some time with churches, and there are lots of needs in front of me. And the idea of developing a leader doesn't feel like the immediate urgent need in front of me.
Yeah, it doesn't feel urgent. That is true.
Yeah.
Most people that are in the business of starting things, so whether it's starting an organization, a startup business, a startup church plant, spend a lot of time and energy doing the things that are going to cause that entity to be created.
Right.
And so there's a lot of energy that goes into that initial launch. And often that kind of clouds the judgment of the one who's doing the launching, to the point where often they have a hard time seeing the value of investing in something like leadership development early on, because they're pulled in so many different directions. I tell church planters, you do not have time to fail in this. Actually,
right.
Usually, church planters in particular will tell me, I lack time, I lack energy, I lack resources, and I lack people that I need in order to invest in leadership development. The problem is you will always lag in those things if you do not develop leaders effectively. And so we spend a lot of time talking about the difference in perception and that feel of urgency that they grapple with. And so a lot of that is kind of balancing what's immediate with what's actually important over the long haul.
And I think just as I've had the chance to observe that there's a real challenge there, because, you feel the heat from that fire that feels like it's right there, but you don't recognize all the prep work to prevent those future issues. And again, gosh, I don't know somebody who's starting, who's not limited on some kind of a resource or supply or some kind of an asset. And so they're already feeling kind of strapped, and that can be difficult. But, Chad, we care about Christian leadership here, right? So I want to understand from your experience or your view, what are some of those biblical principles that underlie this importance? Like, why, how does my faith impact this sense of purpose or call or importance behind leadership development as I'm really starting something out?
Yeah. Everything starts, kind of rises and falls in the area of discipleship with Matthew 28, the Great Commission.
Yeah.
And so if the Lord has called us to make disciples, teaching them to observe all that he has commanded us, that's going to require us to develop leaders effectively. So I personally see leadership development as a subset of discipleship.
Okay.
It is, I'll put it this way. If someone has been entrusted into my care, into my circle of influence, I'm called to disciple them.
Right.
If they have the gift of leadership, the call of leadership on their life, it is now my divine duty to develop that as a part of their discipleship.
That's good.
So I think that leadership development is a part of a holistic discipleship strategy. It is leveraging that which God has given you to pour in and invest in leaders and helping them realize all the potential God's given them as well. So once you make that connection between leadership development and discipleship,
Yeah.
You start seeing them as one and the same in many respects. It becomes about that individual's unique call and giftedness and your stewardship of that as a leader who is discipling them.
You know, I can't help but think about it because I love that framing where, okay, so we know that our call to disciple. How do we see leadership development from within that? Well, gosh, Chad, when I think about Jesus, the people I see him walking with, he was developing them into leaders.
Right. That's a great point.
Like that was the sum of who he was interacting with was so many of these key moments where he identified you have this appointment in a leadership perspective. I'm going to develop that in you, with you, through you. And we see that modeled by the disciples themselves after he ascends, right? Where throughout the scriptures, you see that process taking place where there's this ongoing discipleship and leadership development process. Hence Timothy, Titus, from Paul there. And I think as Christians, when we recognize that that's an extension of that higher calling, we can begin to understand and identify and maybe get that kind of prioritization right? Maybe go ahead and say, okay, you know what? I do have the time because I can't say I don't have time for the things that Jesus told me to do.
Yes.
You know,
that's exactly right.
So question for you, right? I know you do a lot of coaching. You're an incredible leader. What are some of the signs or symptoms of a startup, whether that's a business or a church or whatever? What are some of the signs that a startup has forgotten that? How would I know if I'm starting an organization, I'm listening to this in my own context, and all of a sudden I just go, man, what are those symptoms that could be taking place? And now I know, oh, it's because I'm failing to develop leaders and I need to start that pipeline.
Yeah, that's a great question. One way to diagnose it is to ask, is everything revolving around one leader? And typically, by default, in a startup scenario, there is usually a very charismatic, dynamic leader that has taken the leap of faith and has started something, which requires an enormous amount of faith.
Yeah.
And so there is usually someone who's got this strong gravitational force to their leadership. The trick is, and the challenge at the same time is, how do you leverage that unique influence to empower others?
Okay.
And so where there is a solitary leader, there is often leaders who have not been empowered and not been developed.
Okay.
And so I always ask a church planner who's putting together a core team. So a church planner, maybe they have a core team of 30 people. Before we even get into the launch phase, so in the earliest days, who are 2 or 3 other leaders that you're going to be pouring into or are already pouring into? If the answer is, I don't know, or there are none, we immediately know there's a problem.
Right, yeah.
And so usually looking for where a leader is from the earliest days building everything around their own giftings. The problem with that is if you build around your own giftings, you're also building around your own failings.
Oh, okay.
You're building around your own deficiencies as you build around your sufficiencies.
Okay.
And so a well-run, balanced, sustainable organization, church, whatever it is going to need a host of leaders who are leveraging how God has made them, who he's made them to be, the gifts they have. And that key leader, that startup leader, has to see that and empower that right away in the earliest days.
So it sounds like I can look at my startup context and begin to maybe just even if I'm a year out from that, right? I can just kind of reflect and say, hey, did I start with this framing in mind? Have we set up systems, processes? Have we set up even more than that around my particular strengths or giftings rather than the giftings or strengths of others? I wonder, how do you see maybe the word is delegation, maybe it's kind of delegated authority or delegated decision-making. How do you see those as elements or kind of mental checkpoints, right? In my head, this is what I'm thinking. If I have never delegated or allowed someone else to make a decision in the thing,
Yeah.
then they're not actually able to lead the thing, which means it's still relying on me.
Yeah.
Are there any like checkpoints I can just kind of do a mental or spiritual check on myself to say, God, have I mobilized people in this? And not that that's all of leadership development, but some of it is giving people the chance to take an at bat, right? Like they've got to take a swing at it. They've got to take an attempt
Yeah.
to be a part of that process. Does that make?
Yeah, it does. I think where there is a lack of new and good ideas, you're probably not empowering people.
Okay.
And the reason I say that, I would say new and good. And the reason I because not all new ideas are good ideas.
Yeah.
And some old ideas are good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say new and good. There should be new and good ideas. That would be a good checkpoint, kind of culturally in the organization, in the church.
Okay.
Am I seeing people be bold in bringing new ideas that have maybe never been tried?
Yeah.
Is there a freedom to fail?
Yeah, man.
And that freedom is so empowering.
Yeah.
And it helps people tap into that potential that they have in them. You can't get to your leadership potential without failure. It's impossible.
Right.
And so you have to be allowed to fail.
Yep.
And so that means that whoever that key leader is in a startup has to be okay with allowing those who are sharing in the stewardship of their baby, and they typically have that kind of level of ownership.
Yeah, they do.
They have to allow their baby to be affected by others.
Yeah.
And that can be a challenge, but I think when you see that happening, when you see people failing and failing forward, that is a sign of a healthy, delegating organization and a leader, presumably at the top, who gets it and who understands the need to develop leaders, that it's a bigger deal if I can develop leaders effectively than it is protecting my organization from bad ideas.
I think that's so key. I love that. Protecting my organization is not the highest value here.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
It's developing these other people, and particularly as Christian leaders, we can reflect on that and acknowledge, well, the thing that we're building is a response to the vision and mission that God has given us,
Right.
Whether that be a church or an organization, and therefore He is the one who ultimately rests with the authority on
That's
that.
right.
You connected two things here, and I think it'd be worthwhile for us to think on them for just a second. You connected new and good ideas, and then you connected that with this freedom to fail. And I think two things really stood out to me. The first was new ideas and the freedom to fail require trust.
Yes.
And I have to be establishing trust within my startup organization because without that foundation, I'm never going to receive those new ideas, right? There's not enough trust in the relationship or trust in the context. And so a measure of that, a piece of that would be the acknowledgement that, hey, if I'm not receiving those new ideas, maybe there's a trust issue there. And if we haven't failed in a while, it's probably because there's a trust issue here where they don't feel free to fail. So we're not trying new ideas. Does that seem accurate?
I was just sharing with a church planter. It's funny, a week ago. And I share with them, if you're not failing in the short term, you're probably not succeeding in the long term. That you need those points of data. You need that feedback that you get only from failing at something and it not working in order to build the right processes and practices and strategies into your organization that will pay off in the long run. One other kind of diagnostic on this. I talk a lot with church planters about day one leadership development. Day one. So when they ask me, when should I start this? I typically say something like already, like, why have you not started this? Right. We're already late if we're asking that question.
Right.
And so when I say day one leadership development, often they'll say, well, it's just me.
Right.
It's just me. And I say, that's great. That's actually a great place to start.
Right.
Because are you passionate about your development as a leader?
That's so good.
You're never going to start or plant anything that values leadership development unless you value your own development as a leader. And so if you're not investing in that, if you're not making those deposits in your own development as a leader, you're probably not going to create or start anything that cares about leadership development either.
Chad, I absolutely love that diagnostic because I think you're right. If I'm not working on personal leadership development, that should be the biggest red flag for me, that I'm probably not even considering
Right.
how I should be developing my team
Yep.
and the people that I'm trying to begin this thing alongside. The other point you made there was it needs to be new and good ideas. And I think one of the important elements of leadership development is learning. And so if my team is coming up with plenty of new ideas, but they're not coming up with good ones,
Yeah.
then it might be that there's just some education or some opportunities I need to find a way to introduce them to. You talked about being with Chick-fil-A, a restaurant particularly found across the United States. I also was with them, and on
Yeah.
slow days, right, we would send some of our teams to other stores
Yeah.
in an effort to say, hey, how are they doing this thing, right? It's not that I need you to necessarily discover some new solution. I need you to be exposed to the ideas and inner workings
Yeah.
of these similar places so that we can identify if there is something that maybe can solve a future problem, even if it's really not a problem today. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So as far as looking at these new and good ideas, I think every leader would love to have people that are coming to them with those kinds of things. But I am confident that there's some people listening to us right now who are sitting in the midst of the muck and mire of some kind of terrible situation, right? Some kind of incredibly complex, difficult leadership situation, and these kind of like all or nothing, life threatening, organization threatening leadership circumstances are so common in
Yeah,
startups, right? They don't
sure.
have the institutional momentum, right?
Yeah.
Institutions and movements need one another, right? The
Yeah.
movements provide the life, the energy, the momentum.
Protection.
Right. The institution comes along and says, we
right.
have the resources and the rigidity
That's
and,
right.
and the systems to last multiple lifetimes, not the 20 years that
right.
you might.
Yeah.
And so thinking through those things, there are leaders right now who feel that there are so many urgent things that are resting in front of them that they just can't see past.
Mhm.
If you were sitting down with a startup leader today and they open up their calendar in front of you, right?
Mhm.
And it's sitting there and it's looking full and it's looking heavy. What are some of the things that you would begin to say, hey, let's look at these moments and begin to kind of piece together some time for maybe your own leadership development or development of your team? What are some of the things that you would maybe coach them through in that moment?
Yeah, I think that making a concerted effort to prioritize on a calendar your own leadership development is where I would start. Is at the end of the day, I wouldn't be interested in encouraging a leader to pour into leaders who is not being poured into.
Okay. That's
Right.
good. Yeah.
So I start there.
Okay.
Because you have to have that discipline in order to have any interest in keeping a discipline of developing others.
Mm.
And so I would start there.
Okay.
And that might sound counterintuitive, but prioritizing the development of that startup leader is so critical in the life and the long-term sustainability of that church, of that organization, that business, whatever it is. So I'd say, let's put some time on your calendar for that.
For that. Okay.
What does that look like? And then I would say, let's start blocking out time
Okay.
to spend intentionally with one or two leaders. Maybe it's one a week, maybe it's two a month, but start blocking out any amount of time for those that you have identified the gift of leadership in them.
Yeah.
I look for people who are already leading without a title.
Okay.
Start there.
Yeah.
Influence is so intuitive. We pick it up intuitively,
Right.
and so look for the influential people.
Sure.
Sometimes we're like, I don't have any leaders to develop, and say that's not true because you
Right.
have influential people,
Right.
and leadership is influence.
Absolutely.
And so looking where, okay, well, who has a voice in this group? It might be 5-10 people, but who, when they start talking, everyone else gets quiet.
Right.
Pour into them.
Okay.
I think that we often look for, okay, what's a polished kind of developed leader I could develop?
Right.
Well, that's not what leadership development even is.
Right.
Leadership development is about helping someone realize their God-given gifts.
That's right.
In leadership. And so I would say start with who's influential already.
Yeah.
And again, it could be a couple of people. and then block out time for those individuals. Once you've already kind of blocked out time for your own development and prioritize that over everything else, then spend time with a couple of people in your organization. Start small. You also don't have to start with classes necessarily. You can start by maybe working yourself through a resource with just a leader, another leader in the church or
Yeah.
another leader in
Yeah.
that business. And so start small. It's easier to repeat those things if you start small and in a
Right.
sustainable way. So I would say start there
Okay.
and look for. But again, at the end of the day, this all comes down to intentionality.
Yeah.
Like you have to make yourself do this because
Right.
the demands of the day are going to are going to naturally kind of take over.
Yeah.
And so you have to be on the front end, and blocking out that time is critical because you will not find the time.
Right.
You'll have to take the time on the front end,
Right.
but you won't find it as kind of leftover time.
Well, I think that's an incredibly helpful framing, because so often we'll say, I've got to find the time. I've got to find the time. And the reality is
you won't find it.
You won't. Like you already know it's not lost. You already know exactly all the time you're
That's
going to
right.
have.
That's
Right? It's not an unknown. It's
That's right.
actually a measured thing. And so you have to make the time, or you have to divide the time, or you have to sacrifice the time, acknowledging that probably the fact that you feel a time crunch is a symptom of the lack of leadership development that has already been experienced.
Yeah, that's right.
Two other things that really came to my mind, and I love your thoughts on this. As you talked about beginning that leadership development really in yourself, right? And working through that, my immediate thought was, man, how incredibly true and how simple just that act can be, and how it won't end with you. So here's where my thought went. When we learn something new, right, we're excited about it.
Yeah.
You know that because anytime somebody learns something new, they immediately begin to share it with somebody else, right? Our joy is made complete in the sharing with someone else, right? That's why there's so much joy in sharing the gospel with others, because actually in that we feel and sense the fulfillment of the joy that God made in the sharing, right? How sharing causes that to reach its completion.
Yeah.
And gosh, all you have to do is watch one sports event, right? As soon as one
Yeah.
team scores something,
Right.
the celebration isn't muted and alone; it's corporate and loud. So similarly, when we learn something new personally, the natural reaction will be, as we go about our day and interaction with these people in the startup, we'll begin to share those things. We'll begin to simply acknowledge aloud these things that we're seeing, learning, or experiencing.
Yeah.
And so when we get that opportunity, I really think there's a natural degree to which it has to begin with myself for my own development, but out of that, it'll naturally begin spreading out to others
No
in the
doubt.
process.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's like going to see a great movie.
Yeah.
You're if you love the movie, you're more prone to bringing someone to go see it with you that second time.
That's right.
And so I think that leadership development works that way. I think, again, when you have a passion for leadership development as a way to kind of seize that which God has given you, like seize it,
Mm-hmm.
like become that.
Yeah.
And when you really are in love with becoming more like Jesus, the greatest leader of all time,
Right.
then you're going to want to bring people along on that journey, and you're going to want to share that journey with other people. So, yeah, I think it does work that way. I think that, look at this is a great discipleship tool.
Right.
It just is. It's a great way to bring people along and add value as you grow.
Man, I love that. And I think there's a in the heart of every Christian leader, there's a part of them that's going to acknowledge and recognize that call to service, that
Yes.
call to lovingly give of themselves, right? That's why they're starting whatever it is they're starting. There's some part of them wants to be in an expression of service to others, and so to recognize that leadership development is an expression of that I am in service to you in this way, and ultimately helping you to identify purpose, vision,
Yeah.
giftings, talents, and skill sets necessary to accomplish those those things that God has equipped you and called you for.
Yeah.
Chad, I really love this conversation. And so I want to keep having it, but I know there's only so much time we have for some of these. So do you mind hanging around for one more and we'll keep rolling with it?
We'll love to.
Awesome. That sounds
do it.
great. Hey, if you're a leader out in the world and you're sitting here thinking to yourself, my word, I'm in the midst of the startup and I am trying to figure this thing out. I just want to encourage you. The International Leadership Institute is here. We want to serve you. We want to help. We have an incredible system that God has allowed to impact more than 400,000 men and women around the world. It's the 8 core values of the most effective Christian leaders. If you're looking for something to encourage you, to strengthen you in your own leadership journey, this is an incredible tool just for you. You can find some more resources on those 8 core values at iliteam.org. I look forward to seeing you there.